Hey, good. Happy Tuesday morning to you, everyone, and welcome back to Morning Musings. My name is Don K. Preston. I am the president of Preterist Research Institute of Ardmore, Oklahoma, and this is what I call my Morning Musings. And we're looking at Paul's remarkable statement. And by the way, I'm doing this in response to numerous email requests, and I appreciate that so very, very much. If you've got a topic, if you've got a subject, if you've got a question that you would like for me to address here on Morning Musings, feel free, go to my websites, eschatology.org or bibleprophecy.com. Send me an email saying, Don, I'd love for you to address the following question. Now, I won't guarantee you that I will address it, but I try to pick out those questions and those suggestions that I receive the most inquiries about. And sometimes it's because I have a particular interest in that particular subject, and it's like, oh, great, I'll address that. So, again, feel free to make a suggestion, a comment about the things that you would like for me to investigate here on Morning Musings. I do want to address the things that are on your mind that will help you perhaps to overcome any reservations or concerns about covenant eschatology, i.e. the true preterist view. So, again, let me hear from you. Well, we're looking at 1 Corinthians chapter 10, 11, as I mentioned, where Paul says, speaking of old covenant events and people, they were types of us. And as I pointed out yesterday, Paul is saying that the goal of the previous ages had arrived, that God set the time to set in motion his scheme of redemption. The goal of all the previous ages had arrived, and Jesus came at just the right time. Now that raises a really, really serious question and issue, does it not? And that is, does anybody really know what time it is? To borrow a phrase from Chicago, the band. We are told constantly, especially by the opponents of covenant eschatology, well, God is not bound by time. God doesn't see time like man does. And after all, one day is with the Lord as 1,000 years. 1,000 years is as a day. So when we read the numerous, repeated, explicit, and emphatic New Testament statements that the end of all things had drawn near, 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 7, the coming of the Lord has drawn near, James chapter 5 and verse 8. You see, that supposedly doesn't mean anything. Because after all, time doesn't mean anything to God. God is transcendent above time. Folks, may I be kind here and say this is a completely false escape hatch in the attempt to avoid the reality, pardon me, of the first century return of Jesus Christ, or coming of Jesus Christ. Could Paul tell time? Did Paul know what time it was? Well, he said he did. He said the goal of the previous ages had arrived. Who told him that? Now, I want you to follow along with me very, very carefully here. When Jesus was on earth, speaking of his coming, he said, but of that day and hour knows no man. So modern commentators latch onto that, and they say, look, if Jesus didn't know when his coming would be, then surely Peter and John and Paul didn't know when it would be. This is such a bad hermeneutic. Notice this. Before he went, before he went back to the Father, Jesus told his apostles, it is expedient for you that I go away. If I do not go away, the Comforter, the Spirit of truth, will not come. But if I go away, the Father will send him to you. And when he has come, watch this, he will show you, he will guide you into all truth. He will speak of judgment that is about to come, and he will show you things to come. Okay, so Jesus, who didn't know the day of the hour, would go back to the Father who knew the day of the hour. The Father who knew the day of the hour would send the Holy Spirit to guide the apostles to understand things that were coming. So, here is Paul, who had received the Holy Spirit, that revelatory Spirit, from the Father who knew what time it was. And Paul said, through that Holy Spirit, sent from the Father who knew the time, Paul said, the goal of the ages has arrived. And you really got to catch this. I'm just going to turn there because this is so incredibly powerful. Romans chapter 13, 11 and following. And now do this. Now watch what Paul says, knowing the time. Wait a minute. This is literally knowing the hour. That now it is high time to awake out of sleep, for now is our salvation nearer than when we first believed. The night is far spent, the day has drawn near. Wait a minute. Paul said he knew what time it was. How could he know what time it was? How could he know what the hour was? It is because the Father, who knew the day and the hour, sent the Holy Spirit to Paul to tell him what time it was. Listen to me very carefully. You have to catch the power of this. Every New Testament statement about the end of all things has drawn near. These things must shortly come to pass. And now in a very, very little while, the one who is coming will come and will not tarry. Every New Testament statement about the imminence of the end, the imminence of the coming of the Lord, the imminence of the judgment of the living and the dead, etc., every one of those statements was written by an apostle or by a teacher inspired by the Holy Spirit, sent from the Father who knew the day and the hour. And that Holy Spirit from the Father who knew the time was informing them to say to the churches to whom they were writing, the end of all things has drawn near. Folks, it is simply wrong to go to these New Testament statements of the imminence of the end and say, well, God doesn't see time like we are. God's not bound by time. Yes, He is. Did God literally understand the day and the hour? Well, look, if God understood the day and the hour, then let's not be talking about God not being bound by time. See, it makes no sense. It is completely illogical. It is irrational, and it is unbiblical. Hey, look, I've written a book, Can God Tell Time? This book has changed the lives of thousands upon thousands of people. I want to give you a very free copy. Now, if you've already got a copy, if you've asked for a free copy before, okay, this doesn't apply to you. But if you want to understand God and time, this little book will answer your question. Totally free of charge, no charge for shipping. Contact me, go to my website, eschatology.org, bibleprophecy.com, and say, Don, I saw your offer for a free copy of Can God Tell Time? Saw the offer on YouTube or Facebook, and I'll send you a copy completely free of charge. Hey, thanks for joining me for this morning's Morning Musings. And of course, we've got more. So we'll see you on the flip side.